back. As the objective said, what we're going to do is look at pest recognition and damage. Now, I've got some damage and some I don't have. We've got a wide variety of insects and insect-related pests that we're going to show you. But the key thing that we have to do when we go into trying to recognize pests is we have to make a proper identification. Sometimes that may be rather difficult if we don't know really what we're looking at. So what we need to do is, number one, is that you need to get that 10-power hand lens. Remember I talked about in some of the earlier programming that we get and we use to make sure we can look down at there and find out exactly what we're trying to identify, or at least get it to where we can break it down. Now there's a guide out that you can purchase. It's called Insects, and it's by Peterson. It's a real thick, soft paperback book that you can get that goes into how you break down these insects to make sure that you've got a proper identification. Then there's some other places that you can go, and it's one, of course, known is that the county agent's office, where I used to have a lot of publications that I would send out to a lot of different people. And these were extension bulletins, and a lot of them have good color pictures, and that's what you really want to get. And this one happens to be on subterranean termites. I have some others in here, good pictorial guide. Another one, cockroaches and recognition and control. And then some good color pictures and gives you information about the identification of them, and then goes into some control measures and also some non-chemical control measures. Here's another one on ticks attacking humans. Good pictorial guide that you see here that gives you specifics, up-close pictures that will help you in identification. Here's another one on box elder bug. Here's one on silverfish and fire brats, centipedes, millipedes, spiders, and there's a whole lot more that you can get, and they're free of charge. All you have to do is go by your county agent's office to get it. As I said, there's lots of different insects that we could look at, but we've gone through and put a list together for you that's pretty long and should probably fill up this whole segment. And we also are going to take an opportunity to look at some rodents and try to identify or help you identify the difference between the two. And one thing, you know, my wacky book here, my little boy's wacky book, I thought I'd pull this out. We're talking about lots of insects. And there's a statement in here that says that there are more types of beetles than any other kind of insect. If you started to write down their names at a rate of 1 name each minute, it would take you 5 months to finish it. 5 months. So you can see there are a lot of insects out there, and we're just going to go over a few of them that will help you as far as some identification goes, some of the more common ones. So let's take a look and remember how we distinguish between insects and insect-related pests. And if we'll look at the first chart, it shows us that what we have is we have the 3 body regions. We have the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. And then we have 6 legs. Very important. And then some of the metamorphosis. Remember, we have several different types of metamorphosis. And this one happens to be the complete metamorphosis, which says the pupae, the egg, the pupae, the larvae, in the adult stage. And then arachnids, the adult, or the spiders, the ticks and the mites, we have 2 body regions and 8 legs. What we're going to do is we're going to start off here. I've got a couple of live or so-live that we can take a look at. And the first one we're going to look at is under the elmo, and if we can kind of get up to that, and I don't know if I need to focus down on it or not, but I think that you can see it pretty well. Let's see if we can get it a little better position for you right there. Let me put him out here in the middle and get him mad. One day I was putting on my shirt at the house, getting ready to go out and do a seminar, and I felt this thing bite me, and man, I hit my shirt and knocked off, shook it down, and guess what was in there? Good old scorpion. Scorpions are close relatives of ticks, mites, and spiders, but of course they don't look like any of those. Scorpions range in size anywhere from a ½ inch to 7 1/4 inches long, depending on the species. The common striped scorpion in Texas is about 2 1/2 inches long. He looks about that close. All scorpions are characterized by a long, slender body with a 5-segmented tail that is arched over the back and ends in a bulb-like poison gland. Scorpions sting rapid, as you know, and have forward tail movements. All scorpions have 4 pairs of legs and 2 large piercing-bearing arms. Scorpions have small eyes but are nearly blind. They hide primarily under stones and bark of fallen trees, wood, or other objects on the ground where they wait or search for prey. So this is a scorpion there, as you know, that will provide quite a sting if you allow them to get there. Going on to our next pictorial guide, and what we're going to do is we're going to pretty much go through these and give you a little bit about the information of it, and then if we can, we'll give you some damage, but we have quite a few to go through here. The carpet beetle. Most common in northern states, this beetle infests carpet and feeds on fabric. It also feeds on animal products that are left undisturbed, such as wool, leather, and furs. Distinguishing characteristics, these beetles are small or oval in shape. They're grayish-black in color with a varied pattern of white and orange scales on the back, and an orange-red band of scales runs down the middle of the back. The powder post beetle. Powder post beetle, second only to termites in destroying wood. They leave small round holes in wooden articles along with a residue of fine powder-like dust. The various species of these beetles range in size anywhere from 1/12 of an inch to 1/3 of an inch in length, and from reddish brown to black in color. The basal segment of the abdomen is as long as the second and third combined. The body is flattened and the head is visible from above. And what we have is another one we're going to show you. Let me close this guy up here. And what we're going to do is we're going to get a hold of centipede. I'm not supposed to turn my back to the camera there. Let me bring this baby out and let you take a look at him here. See if we can get that. See how that looks underneath there. Pretty good. Pretty good. Centipedes found throughout the country. House centipedes live in damp areas such as cellars, closets, bathrooms. Outdoors, they can be found in damp locations under leaves and stones. Of course, a flat worm-like body, 1 inch or more in length, with 1 pair of long legs for almost each body segment. The house centipede is grayish yellow with 3 dark stripes running the length of the body. It has 15 pairs of legs with hind legs more than twice its body length. And some other interesting facts about centipedes is they do not carry disease to man or his animals or plants. Of course, they are distant relatives of lobster, crayfish, and shrimp. Some of these can be fully mature and attain a length of at least, looks like this one is, about 12 inches. They can inflict a painful bite of the poison claws directly under the head. So we have to be careful, of course, when we handle these. Let me pull him out of the way before he bites me. Well, he's dead, so he ain't going to bite anything. Let me set him back down over here. All right, the next what we're going to look at are some of the problem areas that we run into. And these are the roaches. Looking at the American roach. The American roach is the largest of the common species, growing to a length of 1 1/2 to 2 inches. The adult female usually drops her egg capsule within a day after it's formed. Occasionally, she glues the capsule to some surface with secretions from her mouth. And looking at the the German cockroach should be next. And looking at it, the adult German cockroach is a light brown, 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch long. The head shield has 2 dark stripes, as you can see there, which run lengthwise. Adults are fully winged, but they rarely fly. The German cockroach is the most prevalent cockroach in Texas and is more active than any other domestic species. The German cockroach produces more eggs per capsule than other species and has a developmental period as short as 2 months. Thus, we get some troublesome infestations. This is the only domestic species in which adult females carry egg capsules protruding from their abdomens until the eggs are ready to hatch. They usually enter tight constructed homes with bottled drink containers, potatoes, onions, dried pet foods, grocery sacks, corrugated cartons, and even furniture. The brown-banded cockroach is a light gold to glossy dark brown, anywhere from 1/2 inch to 5/8 of an inch in length, with transverse yellow bands across the base of the wings. The brown-banded, these cockroaches are quite active, and the adults, especially the males, fly readily when disturbed. Brown-banded cockroach is more apt to be found in homes, apartments, hotels, motels, nursing homes, and hospitals, and in restaurants, grocery stores, and other commercial establishments. They prefer starchy foods and appear to have a lower water requirements than other cockroaches, so they can occupy many different locations within a building. Because brown-banded cockroaches do not confine their activities to well-defined areas in the home, control may be difficult. The oriental cockroach. Adult oriental cockroaches are glossy, dark brown to black. Females are nearly 1 1/4 inches long and males are 1 inch long. The male's wings cover most of the body. The adult female oriental cockroach usually carries her capsule for about a day, then drops it or attaches it to a protected surface near a food supply. The smoky brown cockroach is slightly more than 1 inch in length and is a uniform, very dark brown to black. Unlike the American cockroach, the head shield is a solid dark color. Both males and females have wings longer than their bodies and are capable of flying. Adult females usually carry their egg capsules for a day or two before attaching them to the outside surfaces of the building. Sometimes they drop the capsules on the ground. These cockroaches live primarily outdoors and prefer wooded areas near houses, leaf litter, trash piles, and other human sites with abundant organic matter. The cat flea. What we want to do is to look at the cat flea and give you some identifiable characteristics of the fleas. Fleas, as you know, are very hard to control. We have to go in and make several applications in order to get adequate control. The most common during the summer, of course, especially when homes are reoccupied after vacation. The most common hosts are cats, dogs, mants, and a wide variety of animals. Fleas are extremely small, averaging 2 to 4 milliliters in length. The body is flat vertically and is covered with spines which project backward. These are wingless but have long, powerful legs for jumping great distances. What they do is those fleas, since they have a long, narrow body, they get in there in between those threads of that carpet, and man, they attach. And so when you're trying to suck them up with a vacuum cleaner, they're hanging on for dear life. Remember, any kind of vibration will make them vibrate and go ahead and start their regeneration process. The other thing that you have to remember, they can live for a long time on feces of other fleas, and that's what they live on, and some of the things that are down in the fabric until you come along and they get a hold of you. Looking at a millipede, millipedes again are in the same order as centipedes. They're normally found outdoors in damp places such as under leaves and in mulch. At times they swarm into building basements and first floor rooms. Characteristics of them, unlike the centipede, millipedes have round bodies, not flattened bodies. Plus they have 2 pairs of legs for every body segment that they have. They're brownish in color and usually between 1/2 and 1.5 inches long, and they coil up when resting. The next one that we're going to look at is spiders. And there's a spider that we need to pay particular attention to. And that's a spider that we have that is shown to you here is a pretty common spider that we run into. These spiders are of great help to us because a lot of times they are beneficial in nature, and we use them too as an insect provider. But there are 2 that we need to take a look at. One in particular is the brown recluse spider. The brown recluse is one of the ones that I have said is that it is of great importance to us because it is the one that is now leaping forward and causing a lot of damage to humans. The brown recluse often lives around human dwellings and is found in bathrooms, bedrooms, closets, as well as under furniture, baseboards, and door facings, or in corners or crevices. They're recluse. They like to get back in those particular areas. People are sometimes bitten while they sleep, or when they roll on a spider, or when, as my wife got bitten, as she had a towel, got out of the shower, wrapped a towel around her, and he attacked her and he got her. Fortunately, she was okay. They're a non-aggressive spider, but you attack them, or they think that you're attacking them, and then they will have a problem and they'll get you. Their eyes are also formed at the base of a violin shape on their back. They have a violin on their back and they're very distinguishable. The neck of the violin is formed by a distinct, short, median groove. Bite symptoms. The effect of the brown recluse spider bite may be immediate or delayed depending upon the amount of venom injected and the victim's sensitivity. The bite usually causes a stinging sensation and then intense pain. The other one that we have is the black widow spider. And with the black widow, of course, they're found outdoors. We don't have too many problems with the black widow spiders anymore because we don't go to outdoor toilets that much anymore. Thank goodness they moved everything inside, so we've eliminated at least the black widow spider. But remember, they have a red or sometimes hour shape on the back of it, and they'll get in, and what they do is they've got what they call chelicera, get it out, or teeth. And the reason why we don't get too many problems anymore, because what they have to do is bite you and then start chewing on you, and then they inject their venom through their chelicera. Oh, that's tough. And then they break the skin, and that's how they get it into you. But as I said, primarily those happen now when we're out camping a lot of times, or in some wilderness areas where those those black widows exist. So we need to also be careful with them. The next one, what we're going to look at is termites. The drywood termite. These are very destructive. They're found in the extreme south and a narrow strip from east to the west coast. These termites nest in undecayed wood with very low moisture content. That's why they're called drywood. Distinguishing characteristics of these termites are larger than subterraneans and smaller than damp wood termites. Winged adults and soldiers about 1/2 inch long. Color of the various species ranges from dark to light brown. And then we have a winged drywood swarmer that we want to take a look at so you understand that the swarmer. They have 3 stages of growth: the eggs, the nymphs, and adults. Drywood termites are generally larger than most of commonly seen subterranean species. After a drywood termite colony has matured, which requires several years, swarmers are produced, as we see here, and swarming activity occurs at dusk or in the evening, and swarmers tend to fly toward areas of greatest light intensity, gathering around lights or illuminated windows. We also have 2 good pictures of the drywood termite soldier, which is on the left, as you see there, and the nymph. Subterranean termites. Of course, what we have a whole lot of. The most widespread group of termites that cause most of the termite damage to structural timbers in the United States and are usually in the soil. What we want to do is look at a little chart here that enables you to distinguish between a termite and an ant. As you see on the left, what we have is that we have the antennae are not elbowed in the termite. You can see them straight up. We have two pairs of wings of equal length. The eyes are absent, and we have a thick waist. On the right where the antenna is, we have an elbowed antenna, as you see there. This is the winged adult comparing the two. We have two pairs of wings of unequal length. The eyes are present, and we have a thin waist. It's very important to make the proper identification between termites and ants, because you sure want to make sure that when you go in that you know the difference and you're going to take care of it. As we go on, we'll see the subterranean termites that we have are, as we said, primarily in the southern part of the United States. The wing forms are only 1/2 inch long. Workers and soldiers are about 1/4 inch long. The soldier has an elongated quadrangle light yellow head with straight mandibles. Curved at the tip, the thorax of the worker is narrower than the head and the abdomen. Looking at the wing reproductive swarmers that we have, we'll look, as you see there, those wings are what? Equal in length or unequal in length? Well, sometimes it's hard to identify, so you need to get that 10-pair hand lens and get down there and look at that. There are social insects that live in nests or colonies in the soil. We have 3 termite forms or castes are found in colonies. Reproductives, workers, and soldiers. Individuals of each caste have 3 growth states: the egg, the nymph, and the adult stage. We look at a picture of a worker and a soldier. They're also next. After a termite colony matures, which requires 2 to 4 years, swarmers will produce the same thing. The environmental factors, though, such as heat, light, and moisture, trigger the emergence of swarmers. Each species has a definite set of conditions under which it will swarm. The number of swarmers that will be produced will be proportionate to the age and the size of the colony and is otherwise regulated by environmental conditions. Now, signs of infestation, we can look at characteristics of damaged wood. There's a soldier right there, but I'm going to show you this damaged wood because it's very important to take a look at it. As you see typical damaged wood there, also have some damaged wood here that I'd like to show you of subterranean termites. If you'll look right in here, you can see maybe what this has done. This is no board that was laying on the ground. You can see there, let me turn it right there, there we go. Looks just like the picture, doesn't it? And then I have another piece over here, a smaller piece that we'll take a look at. I think if we can kind of get it there. That old 2x4. Subterranean termite damage. Very interesting. Let me sit this here right now. While I'm back here, I might as well get this out of here. I don't know how we can do this, but I think perhaps we can come in rather close and take a look at what I want to see. All those holes in there? Is that from a woodpecker or a yellow-bellied sapsucker? The answer is no, because you see these holes are all over the place. Let me get a see hole here, hole there, hole down here, there, yonder. If it was a bird or it was a sapsucker, all these holes would be in a straight line because they'd go in there and peck it in there like this. So remember that. This is from borers. You can see the inside maybe. If we can show that, if we can get to the inside, a good close-up on there, you can see how that borer, those holes and those tunnels that are in here, probably going to be kind of hard to see. But that's the kind of damage that you can get from borers. All right, we're going to move on, and we're going to move on to the next pictorial that we have to provide you some good information, and it's the ticks. All right, the life cycle of the American dog tick, or life cycle of ticks. Ticks have 4 developmental stages: the egg, the 6-legged larva, and 1 or more 8-legged nymphs in adults. Hard ticks usually mate on the host animal. The female then drops to the ground and she deposits 3,000 to 6,000 eggs, which hatch into larvae or seed ticks. The American dog tick are chestnut brown with white spots or streaks on their backs. Unfed adults are about 1/8 of an inch long, but engorged females become slate gray and may expand to a length of 1/2 of an inch. Larvae and nymphs feed mostly on small rodents, while adults feed on dogs, cattle, other animals, and humans. American dog brown tick are reddish brown. Unfed adults are 1/8 of an inch to 3/16 long, and engorged females, as we said, they're 1/2 an inch. What we want to do is to remind you about ticks. What happened is we have, if you will, a beneficial insect that is taking care of most of the ticks that we've had in East Texas, and that is the fire ant. Because we have fire ants so abundant in East Texas, they've almost eliminated the tick problem that we had. Because cattle ranchers in East Texas used to have a big problem with ear ticks and had to put in all these types of ear tags that had been impregnated with some type of insecticide to keep those ticks out of those cattle's ears. They don't have to do that anymore because a fire ant, it is beneficial in some instances, but primarily when we're associated with fire ants, they're not too beneficial for us. So they were a predator on the ticks, and they took care of them. And going on and looking at our next, the brown dog tick, the adult brown dog tick, again, is about the same size as the American dog tick. They feed pretty much on dogs where they attach their ears in between their toes. Looking at the Lone Star tick, they are various shades of brown or tan. Females have a single silvery white spot, as you can see there on the back, and males have scattered white spots. Unfed adults are about 1/3 of an inch long, but after feeding, those females get larger and up to 1/2 an inch, about the size, too, of those dog ticks. Larvae and nymphs parasitize small wild animals, birds, rodents, while adults basically feed on larger animals. Silverfish and fire brats. Silverfish are among the most common insects in the home. They eat paper, fabrics, and get into cereals. Fire brats prefer temperatures above 90 degrees and are usually not found together with silverfish. Bodies are long, slender, and flat, broad at the front and tapered to the rear. Antennae are long and slender. 3 long, slender appendages protrude from the rear. They're wingless, and the body is about 1/2 an inch long. Looking at carpenter ants, a big problem that we have. Now, one thing to help you, sometimes someone may call you out to their house, and what they're trying to do is to determine, well, one, if you've done a termite job, and they call you back and say, hey, you haven't done that termite job. What you do is you take them over there and you make an inspection, and you'll see. Sometimes you'll see wings, and sometimes you'll see sawdust, and then sometimes you'll look and there'll be a little, I'm trying to think, like cocoon thing, but what it will look like is it'll look like a little beer can with the lid popped off the top of it. Well, that's carpenter ants, and a lot of times when you do good termite job, what happens is those carpenter ants come from the outside and they take over where those termites you've killed out, and they go back in and they go through a renovation process, and they're kicking out all those dead termites and pieces of them. So what you need to get there and look at those wings and try to find those little those egg sacs, if you will, those little, and you'll see them, they're very identifiable, and those are from carpenter ants. And you can go in there and make a decision, and you can tell them, look, I've done a good job, there's no termites here, but there's carpenter ants here, and why don't we go ahead and do a carpenter ant job? I won't think about that. But carpenter ants, found throughout the United States in a variety of species. The tunnels they excavate in wood are clean, almost sandpaper in appearance, unlike those termite tunnels. They're real shiny in there. They're among the largest of ants and are vicious biters. Workers vary greatly in size, anywhere from 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch. They're usually black, but may have some brown color or some orange attached to it or some red. They are long-legged, and they move swiftly. Sometimes when you discover some ants that are in your house and you see a bunch of little pharaoh ants maybe or some fire ants moving down the counter, and then all of a sudden, boy, you see this thing looks like an 18-wheeler that's coming right behind them. And it's all in line because remember those ants leave a pheromone trail. Well, that big ant, and I mean much larger ant, that's a carpenter ant. It looked like an 18-wheeler with a bunch of little cars going down there through there. So that's one way to identify it. Also, the queen, she can be almost 3/4 of an inch in size. She can be very, very large. So watch out for those carpenter ants because they come outside from the outside and they invade the inside. It's very important for you to remember that. Let's go on and look just at a picture of a house ant. A wide variety of species, as we know, are all over. Most feed on organic matter and are especially attracted by sweet foods. Colonies hibernate in the soil or in garden trash. Some characteristics of them, although there are many of the different species, are common house ants, but most are black, brown, or reddish in color. They range anywhere from 1/6 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch in length, with an enlarged abdomen, and may be winged or wingless also. Now remember, our queen and our fire ant mound, those queens are the reproductive for that nest, whatever it may be, carpenter ant, fire ant, whatever. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to take care of the queen. Now there will be reproductives, and they'll have wings because they fly up and they mate in the air, as we said in some of these other segments that we've done. So remember that reproductiveness that comes out of the ants. Going on and looking at fire ants. As we know, the fire ants are very, very bad in the southern part of the United States. The red imported fire ant reached Texas during the 1950s. It came from Mobile, Alabama, and it came out of ballast. A banana boat came from South America, brought those ants up here. They dumped the ballast out, and when they dumped them out, the fire ants came out, and they moved west. They did like some philosopher said, I can't remember who it was, go west, young man, go west. And that's what they did. We have 4 fire ant species found in Texas. 3 are native to the state. The tropical fire ant, the southern fire ant are our most common native species, and we have a desert fire ant. Here is where you see where we have the red imported fire ant. Because in some areas in East Texas, we have anywhere from 200 to 400 mounds per acre. Every time you take a step, you step out of one fire ant mound to the next. They can be that tall or taller. So they're very, very aggressive in nature, as you should know. They'll get you. Don't stick that your finger down in that fire ant mound, because they'll come up and they'll get you, and they'll get you in a hurry. But we need to be careful. We need to make sure that we understand their biology and the way that they work in order to get good control of them. But we are going to be able to control them, but we're never, never going to be able to eradicate them. They're working on all kinds of fungi, and they say that there's some mites that you can get to put down the fire ants to control them. But if you don't put those mites out properly, the mites are going to get on you, and you're not going to like that either. So lots of different control measures. Do what you can to control them. Moving along, what we'll do is we're going to look at galls. Here's a gall making cynipid wasp. The most common galls on ornamental plants are those caused by insects and mites. Mealy-oak galls is another picture that we have, and you can see the galls of how they're laid out. We also have some good slides that deal with the hackberry galls that are induced by jumping plant lice. And then galls also that we have is caused by the oak apple wasp. And I have a little gall that we can show right here too, that's much larger or similar to that we see the galls on the oak. Maybe I can hold this right here where we can see it. See those? Those are galls. What happens, these galls are laid and those wasps lay their eggs in there, and then when they hatch and they come on out, you can see there's a hole over here. Well, what happens sometimes, see that hole? What happens sometimes is those carpenter ants come up in here and they'll make a little home in here, kind of like a little condo on a limb for them. So those ants can get in here and cause some extensive damage, kind of stay overnight, and then move on into the house and get into some problem situations. We've got pecan galls, oak leaf galls, all kinds of different galls, and they're made primarily by little wasps. Moving on, we are going to take a look at the next slide that we have, or next good picture that we have that's going to be of good interest to you. It's on the sod webworm. They can be a destructive pest of grasses commonly used for homes. Sod webworms spend the winter several inches below the ground as partially grown larvae. They mature and transform into adult moths in the spring. They feed primarily at night, prefer areas and lawns that are hot and dry during the day. As a result, steep slopes, banks, and other areas difficult to water are subject to damage. Heavily shaded areas are seldom attacked by the larvae. Pantry pests. Some situations where we run into, we're going to look at and know something about the Angamus grain moth. They're similar in size and color to clothes moths. The moth is light tan with a few dark specks of forewings and a fringe of hairs at the rear of the hind wings. In homes, they generally infest popcorn, Indian corn decorations, seeds and dried flower arrangements, and bulk storage. We can get into some big problems with those. Moving on and looking at the next insect pictorial that we have should be the bean weevil. And these weevils are lighter brown than grain weevils and flecked with patches of black, gray, and white. They have short, stout bodies and are very short snouted. The larvae or grubs develop only within the dried seeds of legumes such as dried beans, peas, or cowpeas. Then we have several different pictorial guides of the red and confused flower beetle, red and confused flower beetle larvae. These are cream-colored type, colored as you can see there, kind of a light brown. They feed on flour, dried pet foods, meal, macaroni, cereals, crackers, prepared cake mixes, spices, dried fruits. All that can be infested. Adult beetles are often found crawling around the infested vicinity, or in case of some of the flower beetles and cigarette store beetles, flying and collecting around light fixtures. This is the larvae that we see here. We also have the sawtooth grain beetle, and we also have the cigarette and drugstore beetle. Flower moths, or Indian meal moths, that we have, there are bicolored forewings, which are brick red on the outer 2/3 and light grayish, as you can see here in the pictorial, on the basal 1/3 near the head. The Mediterranean flower moth has pale gray forewings with very faint black wavy transverse lines. We'll get into some situations with the Indian meal moth. Then the adult mealworm that we have, as these are up to 1.5 inches in length. They're sluggish, hard-shell larvae of dark color, medium-sized beetles. When these pests are discovered, proper control procedures include not only destruction of the infested material, but also correction of a moisture problem that we might run into. The box elder bug that we have in the next guide, they are about 1/2 inch to 1/3 of an inch wide. They are dark brown, gray to black with distinguished red markings, as you can see there. The rather flat bugs have 3 red lines running lengthwise on the pronotum, which is the area that's behind the head. Adult box elder bugs deposit eggs in cracks and crevices of tree bark in the spring when buds open. In about 2 weeks, the eggs hatch into nymphs, which grow larger and develop into adults during the summer. There may be 2 or more generations per year in Texas. Host plants of the box elder bug feed primarily on seeds of female box elder trees. But minor hosts include plum, cherry, apple, peach, grape, chinaberry, western soapberry, ash, and maple. Fruits of these plants may be damaged by the box elder bug. Young fruit is scarred or dimpled by their feeding, and mature fruit is quite often fed upon after it falls to the ground. Going into the next one, what I want to do is make sure that you understand something. We're going to go into honeybees. There's been a big media explosion on this killer bee thing. Well, yes, there are, but they are not called, the media is determining them killer bees, but they are Africanized honeybees. There is a distinction between the Africanized bee and the honeybee. The Africanized bee is really smaller than the honeybee, and they are a lot faster than the honeybee. But the honeybees that we have, we really look at them as beneficials, and they are certainly going to help us out a whole lot. So let's take a look at the honeybees. Despite their value as pollinators and producers of honey and wax, honeybees are generally unwelcome in and around homes because of their possibility they may sting people. We talked about the Africanized bee and the so-called bee that we have. These are really beneficial to us. They really help us out a whole lot. If you look at the next slide, it will surely show us how they help us out, because I don't think this person probably has had a bill in a long time, because nobody's going to go in there and put anything in that mailbox. Paper wasps, social wasps, are wasps most noticed around homes and other buildings. They are slender, narrow waist wasps with long legs, and we have 3 castes, the queen and males, which are produced only in the late summer or the fall, and we also have the infertile female workers. Looking at yellow jackets, are easily recognized but are often confused with paper wasps. Bald-faced hornets are also yellow jackets, but because people often view them differently, they will be discussed separately in looking at them. Worker yellow jackets are strikingly marked with black and yellow bands. They construct their nests of paper-like material consisting of wood fiber. The size of the nest can vary from a few inches up to 6 feet or larger, and nests may contain up to 45 levels of comb or 20,000 adult workers. Looking at the hornets, the bald-faced hornet is the only hornet reported in Texas. It is actually a member of the yellow jacket family. Bald-faced hornets are large, up to 3/4 of an inch long, and black with white markings. Particularly on the front of the head, they construct an inverted, pear-shaped, enclosed paper carton nest, which can be up to 3 feet long. Going on and looking at some of the others that we have, the mud dauber, the cicada killer. Cicada killer first, what this insect does, they're about 1.5 inches long. They have wings, and of course, and they're striped with black and yellow on the abdomen, as you can see there. They're really a nuisance in landscape during certain times of the year. What that cicada killer is doing is they're going out to kill cicadas, because what they do is kill the cicada. They lay their eggs in the cicada, and they dig a hole, and they put them in there. And what those eggs are doing when they hatch, they feed on that cicada. Looking at the mud dauber, these wasps build small tube-like nests of mud under eaves, in attics, or under roofs of storage buildings. As they develop the mud tubes, the young larvae are generally fed spiders, including the poisonous brown recluse. Adult mud daubers are anywhere from 3/4 to an inch long and vary in color from dull black with bright yellow markings to blackish or iridescent blue-black. The white grub that we have. In Texas, what we have is we have the May or the June beetle. Its flight is in May or June, and a lot of times we'll see a big flight, and then we'll wait a few days, and then there'll be a bunch of them. You can see them outside at the lights. When we see that second flight up, then what we do is we prepare to make an application of a pesticide 42 days from that point in time, because that is the ideal time to control the grubs. And you see in that pictorial, that's what they look like. But at that time, they're close enough to the surface where if we need to, we can apply an insecticide that will kill out that grub, because the damage we see from grubs will be later on. As they mature in size, in grub size, or instars, if you will, they get larger and larger and get deeper and deeper in the ground. And then what we do then is we can't control them, because no amount of insecticide is going to go down and reach them. If it gets down there, they're going to be so large that we're going to run into some major problems because we can't. There's nothing that we can do at that point. They get so big. I've even seen times during the winter when it got warm and they moved up to the top of the surface and started feeding on roots of the plants, and we ran into some big problems that way. So that's the Texas white grub that we see. The sow bug that we have and we see here, they prefer moist locations and can be found under vegetable debris and on other objects of damp ground. Frequently invade damp basements, crawl spaces, and many infested plants. They have oval bodies, convex above, and flat or hollow underneath. Never get over 3/4 of an inch long. I'm stuttering here. Both have 7 pairs of legs. The sow bug has a tail-like appendage that prevents it from rolling up in a ball. The pill bug, however, lacks those appendages and rolls itself into a tight ball. And if you remember, I used to call them when I was a kid roly-polies, because they kind of get like marbles, and you can shoot marbles with them when they roll up like that. So that's what we had. Looking at armyworms. Armyworms, the landscape that we have that have worked with certain things, and they certainly can destroy lawns. This is sod webworm moth. We've already covered and talked about the sod webworm. Next in line is the fall armyworm that we have. They destroy lawns also. That's why I got into the lawns. Shrubbery, vegetable crops, flowers, as well as many ag crops. We've got the fall, the yellow-striped armyworm, the bead armyworm. The armyworm is correctly used to mean the only one species. This is also the true armyworm to distinguish it from other species. The term armyworm refers to all the above species and others which sometimes are abundant and confused with them. The larvae or caterpillars are green or brown with various markings. Color depends on the species, individual variation in food. They range in size anywhere from 1/8 of an inch or less for the newly hatched to a fully grown larvae of about 2 inches in length. They attack many different kinds of plants. What we need to do is we're going to have another picture here of an insect that we've already gone over. It's going to be on the fire ant, but we've already seen that and know about fire ants. So what we're going to do is move right on into the next picture that we have so we can give you the proper identification. After the imported fire ant, we've already talked about it, then what we're going to do is we're going to look at grasshoppers. And grasshoppers, we know, vary in size. A lot of times what they do is they'll come in and they will be very destructive. Matter of fact, they are some of the most destructive insect pests. Grasshoppers feed on nearly all crops and wild plants, causing direct losses. Both of the nymphs and adults have chewing mouth parts and normally feed on the leaves of the plants that they attack. Another problem that we run into, besides that grasshoppers out there chewing on our grass, then we get into a chigger situation. And we all should know what chiggers are. Chiggers can get onto us and we've got a bad time. They're also known as jiggers or red bugs. They're tiny pests which really can cause some damage for the side that they have because of the torment to humans. In the larval stages, chiggers are orange, yellow, or light red. They are less than 1/150th of an inch in diameter. Their bodies are hairy. A larvae has 6 legs, and its mouth parts include 2 pairs of grasping palms with forked claws. The nymphs and adults have 8 legs. They are related to ticks and spiders. They're active from spring to fall, but are most numerous in early summer when weeds, grasses, and undergrowth are heaviest. Larval chiggers congregate in shaded niches near the tips of the grass leaves, weeds, sticks, and other objects that are very, very close to the ground. Looking at crickets, mole crickets and crickets, what we have, mole crickets are a very nuisance pest. What they have is they have little shovel-like type forelegs on them where they dig that hole and go into the hole into our lawns. They sometimes resemble miniature moles because of their large shovel-like front legs that are adapted for digging. Adults are about 1 to 2 inches long and usually brown or black. They are weak flyers and poor jumpers. Mole crickets spend most of their time in burrows in the soil, coming to the surface when the soil is wet or flooded by rains. During wet, rainy periods, they occasionally enter basements of dwellings. Their burrowing habits sometimes cause problems in turf. Our earwigs is a big problem that we think that we have sometimes. But looking at the earwig, we know that their minimum sized insects, they range from 5 to 31 milliliters, which is equal to 1/4 or 1 1/4 inches in length. They are flattened from top to bottom, which allows them to crawl through extremely small cracks. Their color ranges from brown to black, and some species have yellow or buff-colored stripes or reddish coloring on the head and the body. All earwigs have a pair of hardened abdominal appendages which protrude backwards as a tail. As you can see here, these appendages vary between species and from male to female. They have chewing mouth parts which they use to catch and eat insects. They feed on both dead and living insects as well on mosses, lichens, algae, fungi, and occasionally some growing plants. Indoors, their food consists of house plants or sweet or oily, any kind of sweet or oily food that may be around for them. Fall webworm is a problem that we have in our areas. The larval stages of moths cause unsightly webs and branches of almost all shade, fruit, nut, and ornamental trees and shrubs except conifers. The fall webworm is a rather nondescript. It is mostly white with dark spots on the wings, the larvae about an inch. When full grown, pale yellow or green. There is a broad dusky stripe running down the back, bordered on each side by a yellow stripe. These caterpillars are covered with tufts of long hairs. When we get with the webworm, the problems you'll see are those webs that we get in those trees, and it's very difficult to penetrate those webs. What you have to do is get a stick or something and poke a hole in it and then spray your insecticide. I remember years ago we used to take old cane pole and go up and try to burn them down, and that sometimes wasn't too good for the tree. But nowadays there are products that are specific for those particular types of worms, and so we need to spray it at the appropriate times. Looking at some of the other situations that we have, one is the mosquito. Most mosquitoes are one of the most important insect pests that affect health and welfare of man and his domestic animals. Mosquitoes pass through 4 distinct stages during their lifetime. The egg, larvae, and pupa stages occurs all in water, while the adult stage is free flying. We know that we need to make sure, because we can get disease like encephalitis, and that our dogs can get heartworm problems from mosquitoes. The cutworm is another big problem that we have. It basically gets up there and cuts that plant off. So we want to make sure that, that we're well prepared to make the identification and go in and take care of those. The larvae have chewing mouth parts and damage plants by their feeding activity. As the larvae grow, they shed their skin periodically until reaching a length of 1 to 1.5 inches in length. Cutworms can cause a tremendous amount of damage in almost every garden vegetable, fruit tree, different types of lawn grasses, normal plants in the home, garden, and the landscape. So it's some areas that we need to make sure that we take great care of. Chinch bugs is another problem that we run into. The immature chinch bugs go through several stages. What they basically do is they shed their skin and get larger and larger and larger. Those chinch bugs will get into areas. They'll start, the color of them are orange first, and then they'll go to the adult stage, and the adult stage is black and white. They look kind of like that box elder bug because those wings are folded back on their back. And what they do, normally their damage comes during hot, dry weather when grass is under stress. Normally in about August or September, you'll get the adult chinch bug to get in there and cause damage in the turf. The bugs feed by sucking the sap from the host plant Damage first appears as small yellow or brown discolored areas. These areas increase in size as the insect population increases and expands to new areas where we can have some definite problems as we go through those particular areas. The yellowing sometimes is attributed to lawn diseases or other physiological disorders that we may run into. All kinds of several other different insects that we want to take a look at real fast because our time is starting to run down. We have more insects that we'd like to go over, and I'll go over just a few right now. The next one we're going to cover is the citrus red mite. Now mites, spider mites, they're all within, of course, that mite family. The citrus red mite is a small reddish spider, 4 pairs of legs, and that's what they are. They're spiders. The female measures about 1/3 of an inch, and the male measuring about 1/64 of an inch. The red mite is considered a serious pest. This one here is to citrus, as I said, but they're like spider mites. The two-spotted spider mite is a small spider, 4 pairs of legs, with female measuring about 1/60 of an inch, and the male about 1/80 of an inch long. The two-spotted spider mites are pests of a wide variety of crops, including common plants and many ornamentals that we run into. The two-spotted spider mite are a frequent problem both out of doors and in indoors. All kinds of different insects that we could show you and go on, but it's rather difficult. What I'd like to do at this time is to go and kind of skip on down, and what I want to do is talk about some rodent problem, because pests are rodents, remember? And what we have is we've got, I've got here some very good information about rat facts that I'd like to share with you. Remember, when we get into a rodent situation, what we want to do is make a good identification in identifying the different rodents that we run into. Our two that we run into the most is the roof rat and the Norway rat. As you see here on this slide, it gives you distinguishing characteristics between the Norway, which is at the bottom, and the roof rat that's at the top. The most important thing in determining, a lot of times in my opinion, is the roof rat's tail is 1.5 times the length of the body. As you can see, the Norway rat is a much larger rat that we have to contend with. But the Norway is down on the ground, and the roof rat is exactly what it says. It's high up. It's in the roof. And if you've ever had any rats in your house, or that you're going out and you'll be servicing some of these, what you need to do too is tell the distinguishing marks between the two. A lot of times what you can tell by is sometimes their footprints. Other things that you can tell by is when you look at the fecal pellets that they drop, that the Norwegian rat will have about a fecal pellet about 3/4 of an inch long, and it's blunt, and the roof rat will have it be about 1/2 an inch, and it is tapered at both ends. And the most important thing is to determine the freshness of it. Remember, when you find it, pick it up, bite it. If it's soft, it's fresh. If it breaks, it's old. That tells you exactly what you need to do. Some of the other interesting facts about rodents that I think are pretty good interest to me, one I'd like to get in here with and let you know that dropping from a height of 50 feet doesn't kill or seriously injure rats, and we can get into some big problems. They can jump straight up anywhere from 36 to vertically 36, horizontally 48 inches. All kinds of insects. I wish we had more time to go on, but I tell you, we're going to have to close here, and we're going to take a short pause, and then we're going to come back, and we're going to talk about diseases and weeds and conclude the pest and recognition of damage section.